Okay, Common Core Algebra 2, now we're going to look at 5.2, and this is going to be part 2. So in part 1 we evaluated, and now we're going to look at graphing a polynomial function. So to do that, the first thing we're going to look at is what is called end behavior. So end behavior is only referring to the far left and the far right, meaning to the far left, x is getting to become a very negative number. Now what I mean by that is if I have my y-axis and my x-axis, right? Here's my x-axis, here's my y-axis. Well, these axes go on forever, right? So all the way out here to the left, our numbers are getting really negative, meaning negative infinity. So x is what we say, x is approaching negative infinity. And then to the right, out here, they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, which means they're actually, what we say, approaching positive infinity. So to the far right, we're talking about when x approaches positive infinity. And we want to know what happens to y. Well, remember, y we also call f of x. Okay, so we're looking at the far left as x approaches negative infinity, and the far right as x approaches positive infinity. Well, it turns out f of x is either going to be going up, like up here, and approaching positive infinity, or f of x could be going down, which down here, remember that goes on forever, would be negative infinity. Okay, and we'll try to cover that a little more in detail in class, but just to give you an idea of end behavior, it's either going right and up or right and down to the right side, and at the left, it's either going left and up or left and down on the left side. Okay, and this is only for polynomials. Other functions like rational functions may be a little bit different. And again, we'll touch on those later. And then after we talk about end behavior, we're going to talk about graphing the rest of the polynomial. So then we're going to care about what happens like in here towards the middle of the graph. So end behavior is going to be out here and out to the left, and then graphing the rest of the polynomial in the middle. Okay, so to do the end behavior, what we really care about is the degree, and you notice I put that in red, and the leading coefficient in kind of that rusty brown color. So we need to know more about the leading coefficient. Actually, is going to be the sign of the leading coefficient. Okay, so the degree, remember, is your highest power, the exponent, whatever the largest exponent is. We don't care about all of them, we only care about the largest one. So we're going to look at that degree. And that degree is either going to be odd, or that degree is going to be even. Okay, and those are very distinct tells. It's either an odd number, like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and so on, or even 2, 4, 6, 8, so on and so on. Okay, and after we determine that, next we're going to look at our leading coefficient. Okay, and this is where it gets a little bit complicated. So it's easy to tell what our degree is, even or odd. Our leading coefficient is either positive or it's negative. Okay, if we have a degree that is odd and a positive leading coefficient, we will go up in the right and down to negative infinity in the left. Okay, conversely, if it's odd and negative, well then we're going to go down in the right and up in the left. Okay, so as this we would say as x approaches negative infinity, f of x approaches infinity. And as x approaches positive infinity, f of x approaches negative infinity. And the positive version is opposite. Okay, and so that's only when we have odd degrees. These are always going to go, because they're odd, in opposite directions. Meaning one end has to go up, one end has to go down. And you'll see that's the same for the positive. One end goes up, one end goes down. When they are even, they go in the same direction. Okay, so our leading coefficient again is either positive or it is negative. And if the degree is even and the leading coefficient is positive, well then it's going to go up to infinity in both ends. So as x goes to infinity, y goes to positive infinity. As x goes to negative infinity, y still goes to positive infinity. Okay, negative is going to be opposite then. They're both going to go down and would look something more, and that should be an infinity, not an 8, a negative infinity here actually, okay? So as x goes to positive infinity, f of x goes to negative infinity, or y, remember, as x goes to negative infinity, f of x still goes to negative infinity. See, so you see in the even, they both go the same direction, either both up or both down. In the odd degree, they go in opposite directions. Okay, so that's our end behavior, very basic understanding of it. to graph a polynomial, then for right now we're going to use our calculators and we can create a table. And so we're going to start with a table. What we need to do, and this is kind of the important tricky piece, is choose enough points to determine the portion in the middle. So here we have our degree is odd and our leading coefficient here is a negative sign. That's a -1, so it's negative. So odd and negative told us that we were going to go down in the left side and up, down in the right side and up in the left side. And so we need to figure out, what is happening here in the middle to connect that. Okay, there's a lot of different options. And to do that, we're going to graph some points. So I'm just going to choose some random x points here, like -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so I know it's kind of hard to see those points, but -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3, and I can take them and I'm going to plug them in to this function. So every time I take my x value, I plug it in and I get these points out. Okay, so I now have a coordinate, -3, 24, -2, 3, -1, -4, 0, -3, 1, 0, 2, -1, and 3, -12. And when I put all those points on the graph and then I deal with my end behavior, you see I get this point. So the -3, 24 is like way off. We couldn't do that. But -2, 3 we've got right here. -1, -4, 0, -3, 1, 0, 2, -1, and then again that 3, -12 is off. And remember, like I said, my end behavior to the right went down and my end behavior to the left is going up. So that kind of fits everything we talked about. Okay, so we are graphing with two things, end behavior, so that's a big thing. You need to know your degree, and that is your highest exponent, your highest power, and then whether your leading coefficient is positive or negative. And we'll run it through that little algorithm I just showed you to figure out what we're going to do on the opposite far ends of the graph. And then we created a table. We chose enough points to kind of get an idea of what we're doing in the middle. We plotted all those points. We connected them together and then connected them to our end behavior that we just figured out. All right, we'll see you next time, guys.